Hi everyone. So today we are going to be talking about experiments and what do experiments look like and what do they consist of, and what kinds of things to expect with an experiment. So the biggest thing that you need to know in terms of the differences between experiments and quasi-experiments, which we're going to talk about a little bit later as well, is the use of random assignment. Okay, so this is the idea that participants have an equal chance of being assigned to either the treatment group or the control group. So random experiments are far outnumbered among effectiveness studies by designs lower on the research hierarchy. So again, if it is a true experimental design, it is higher up on the research hierarchy because of random assignment. So this is the idea that you have your group of individuals who are participating in the study, and you literally flip a coin and they are either randomly assigned to the treatment group or randomly assigned to the intervention group. In the subsequent slides, you're going to see some letters. So R means random assignment happened, and then an observation happened, an intervention happened, or a treatment as usual group, right? Okay, so the first one is the classic pre-test, post-test control group design, okay? So let's say, for example, you are working with adolescents and you are talking to them about teen pregnancy. So you have a group of 100 adolescents who are going to participate in this study, and they are going to be randomly assigned. You're going to flip a coin to either get the treatment as usual group, which let's say is an abstinence only group, or they're going to be assigned to an intervention group, let's say, where they talk about abstinence only and sex ed, right? So that's going to be the intervention that they're getting. So in this design right here, again, they're randomly assigned. Up here, you're going to do a pre-test. What is their knowledge of pregnancy and sex education? And then the intervention group is X, and they are going to get the abstinence-only education and the sex ed education. And then you're going to do a post-test test about what their knowledge is on sex education and teen pregnancy. And then again, the other group, randomly assigned, you go here, you go here, you go here, you go here. You're going to give them a pre-test, and they're going to get the treatment as usual, TAU, treatment as usual. So that's, abstinence only. That's the education that they're going to get, treatment that they get at this age. And then you're going to give them a post-test, right? And so then you're going to compare the pre-test and the post-test between the two groups and see if there's a statistically significant difference with the intervention group compared to the treatment as usual group. So that is an example of the classic pre-test, post-test control group design. Then you have the post-test only control group. So sometimes pre-tests can't be done for whatever reason, right? Inmates, you can't give prison inmates a pre-test before they go to prison. So that might be an example. So there's no pre-test, no observation before. So they're randomly assigned to a treatment group, or they are randomly assigned to a control group or treatment as usual group, and you give them a post-test after the intervention, right? So this is the post-test only control group design. Then you have one that's called the Solomon 4 group design. So this is the idea that participants perform better on a skills test through practice. So I like looking at the image first. So you have, this example, there are 2 studies of parenting interventions. The first set of results indicate intervention success with no testing effects. And the second set results indicate a mix of both intervention and testing effects, okay? So this one, you have a pre-test here, and you gave the intervention group, again, everything is randomly assigned for experimental designs. Everything, there's random assignment to the experimental group or the treatment group. So they got a 40 on this parenting assessment, let's say, and then they got the treatment, and then their assessment went up to 80, because after the treatment, their scores on the parenting assessment increased to 80. The treatment as usual group, they got a 40. Let's say you had them just take no parenting class, and then afterwards they got a 60 on it. And then the other one, you don't give them any pre-test. They got an 80, and then they got a 60 on it, right? So here, that's the same as the pre-test results, right? So then here you also give them a pre-test here, and they got a 90 on the post-test, and then they got a 40 on the pre-test and a 70 on the treatment as usual post-test, and then they got an 80 and a 60, right? So the second set of results indicate a mix of both intervention and testing effects. So this is a Solomon 4-group design where you have 4 different groups, 2 treatment groups, but one of them has a pretest and one of them does not. You have 2 treatment as usual or control groups. One of them has a pretest and one of them does not. So you're making sure that your pretest doesn't influence the results of the post-test. Right, so that's the design, that's the purpose behind the Solomon 4-group design. So then you have alternative treatment designs. So this is looking at 2 different treatment options and no control group, essentially. So this one, let's say you are working with veterans who have PTSD, right? So they come into your clinic and they're wanting to be treated for PTSD. And so you randomly assign them to either get trauma-focused CBT or EMDR, right? So A, let's say, is trauma-focused CBT, and B is EMDR. So you randomly assign them. So, okay, this is part of our agency is we are conducting a study. All of the informed consent stuff happens, and you're going to randomly be assigned either to the trauma-focused CBT or you're going to randomly be assigned to the EMDR group. Each time you're going to give them a PTSD screening assessment beforehand, so they get a pre-test, then they get the treatment over the course of weeks, months, however this study is designed. And then afterwards, you're going to do a post-test. And so you're going to see the differences between, or potentially the differences between the 2 treatment designs with no control group. Okay, so that's the AB alternative design treatment. So if one group improves more than the other, this provides strong evidence of the superiority of that intervention. It is best to use pre-tests for this to see if they improve to the same degree afterwards. Without a control group and similar improvements, we can't rule out that the possibility of history or passage of time accounted for the change. So this is very similar, alternative treatment designs. This is a stronger study because you're looking at, again, random assignment. So you're going to assign them to either trauma-focused CBT, you're going to assign them to either EMDR or treatment as usual. And let's say treatment as usual is just like support groups, right? So that's just what they're standard naturally going to get no matter what, versus an actual treatment. All have pre-tests here, and all have post-tests as well. So this is a similar to the alternative treatment designs, but it also adds in a control group as well. So dismantling designs, right? So this is looking at whether or not treatment options are work in combination with one another as well. So again, everything has random assignment in experimental design studies. So they are randomly assigned to AB, they're randomly assigned to just A, or they're randomly assigned to B, or treatment as usual. So again, this is looking at whether or not a combination of two designs works well together. So for this one, an example might be mindfulness, right, with PTSD. So let's say A is mindfulness. Let's say B is trauma-focused CBT. And the treatment as usual is going to be the support groups. So A uses mindfulness and CBT in combination with AB. Then you have another group that is just trauma-focused CBT, and another group that is just mindfulness, and then you have the control group. So then you're going to look at the pre-test, and then you're going to look at the post-test, and you're going to see if A, B together had stronger scores than A alone or B alone, right? So this is what how you're dismantling the design, is you're looking at whether whatever group had the strongest scores represents the strongest intervention. So although each of these experimental designs are strong and would rank highly on the effectiveness research hierarchy, they are still vulnerable to research reactivity. So read more in your textbook about research reactivity and think about a lot of different ways that threats to internal validity could exist even in these studies as well. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys have a great week.